I don't know if you saw, there's an interview with Putin when Trump first became president. You can find it on YouTube. He said something very interesting. And he said, what do you think about Trump? Trump has all these ideas about Russia and how he wants to change the world, etc. And Putin said, I think he said 4. I've sat through 4 US presidents so far. They all come with very interesting ideas. And then the men with the black suits and the briefcases come and explain to them how things are done. And then they leave and I'm still here and nothing really changes. Putin said it. Putin understands. And I think for this reason, winning a vote is nice to say ha-ha to the other side. Winning a vote is nice to say, look, there's still some common sense in the world. It's certainly a morale boost from the actual skin and bones, from the actual blood and grit of how it would change society. I don't think it changes anything. And for that reason, and because I don't want to be suicided, I am absolutely not apolitical. I'm apolitical.
Do you put him as the most powerful man in the world, Putin? Is he at the top, or you put Xi ahead of him?
My view on Putin is very controversial. Do I wrap this up with this? I think Putin is misunderstood. I think he's a misunderstood man. I think that he's been in power for a very long time. I think he's extremely smart. I think he genuinely cares about Russia and Russians above other countries. We're living in a world now where it's very interesting to see European leaders self-implode and self-destruct their own gas prices, their own governments, their own businesses, their own populace's living standards because of some idealistic notion that they need to help a nation that they have no direct link to. If I'm a leader of X country, I should be concerned about X country more than I'm concerned about the plight of whatever country. That's my duty and job. I think it's very interesting that most politicians in the world today don't seem to give a shit at all about their constituents. They care about aligning themselves to higher ideologies and self-imploding their own countries and the living standards for this ideology.
Yeah.
Putin doesn't do that. It's Russia first, Russia. Russians, Russia. Russians, Russian. And for that, I respect him. Most other countries don't do that and won't do that. So I find that very, very interesting about him. I think the current situation is absolutely and utterly unfortunate. I think what happened is terrible. War on all sides is always terrible. I think it's unfair that we discussed Ukraine at length when this has been happening across the Middle East and Africa for decades. Nobody ever gave a shit. But now people seem to give a shit about proxy wars and unfair conflicts and people dying. It's always been happening and nobody cared because they're brown or black. But now we care because they're white Europeans and their chicks are hot. So I think there's a degree of hypocrisy there. He's certainly not the bad guy everyone's saying he is. He has a point, and his point is logical and it makes sense, and he has a point to defend. And I think that to a degree he was forced into make the moves he was made. And
do you have a unique perspective with Ukraine being a neighboring of your Romania and like Zelensky and Putin going back and forward?
It is unique. Yeah. Like there's obviously good and bad on both sides. Nobody's completely innocent. And those are the worst kind of conflicts because when you have a good guy and a bad guy, it's simple, right? But life's never that simple. One guy A has some good points and some bad points. Guy B has some good points and some bad points. Innocents always suffer in the end. The people at the top don't even suffer. And it's really unfortunate. War's always been the same. World War II is the same. The generals sit and have dinner after millions have been massacred. It's unfortunate. And this is another thing I talk about life as a man and status. If you get to become a general, you know, you can participate in the battle, but if you lose, you just surrender and you have to get to have a steak with the Russians and get to go home. If you're at the bottom, you have to die with an artillery shell. So it's all once again about status. It's really unfortunate, but I certainly think that Putin is definitely not a stupid man. And I think the narrative that they point that he's some madman is bullshit. He's not crazy. He's not a madman. He's a very logical actor with points that not many people know or consider or understand why he's doing what he does. But I respect that he believes in Russia and sticks up for Russians. And I think that any leader of any country should do that. I think I'm apolitical now, so I can't remember his name. But there was a recent president of the United States who said America first. And I think that anybody who prioritizes their own populace over the other populations of the world should do exactly that. I think that's their job. I think to do anything else is irresponsible. I think the Russians do it, the Chinese do it, the Indians do it. All the other superpowers to come are going to do that. And as long as you're in charge of a country and you decide to vacate the needs of your own populace to please some crazy ideology, wherever it will be, it makes you non-competitive. And on a long enough time frame, you're going to lose. And that's how empires